Seager and Semien do the Texas two-step, and Max Scherzer ends up with the Mets? Diamond Diehards is on! Joe Rizzo here, bringing you baseball along with the most excited, most thrilled, most in stunned disbelief dog, Jeff Healy, we have ever seen. It is Monday Night Live. We are streaming on Facebook, on the Facebook group. If you are lucky enough to be catching us, or if you are just jumping in, tell a friend, because this is probably more epic than when we were doing a show during a World Series being awarded in 2020 when we were on the air, which was one of our best shows ever. This one probably is going to dwarf that and destroy it, because bedlam has erupted as the deadline, or the supposed deadline, of a labor agreement expiration looms. It's Monday, November 29th in the evening. It's all supposed to crash down on December 1st when the collective bargaining agreement between the players and the owners is set to expire. But secret negotiations are happening all over the place. And Steven Matz's agent, whatever he did and said to Steve Cohen, kicked off this insanity. First, what you need to know. Follow us everywhere at Diamond Diehards. That's on all social media. Follow the dog at Jeff Healy 8. That's the number 8. You can check us out on DiamondDiehards.com if you like. The Facebook group's a pretty great place to go if you want to see the videos there live, and also if you want to catch them on YouTube, we're on there. So hit that subscribe button, Diamond Diehards on YouTube. If you're a listener, if listening is in your repertoire, then you like to hit Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Just look for Diamond Diehards on there and follow or subscribe. Give us a rating. Tell us you love us. Tell us you hate us, whatever you want to do. But join us over there. In the meantime, we do other features on here, like Veteran of the Day and Diehard Dads. Dawg is going to speed through Veteran of the Day in mere seconds here. So we get right into the meat of what's going to happen and what's happened already so far here on the few days over the Thanksgiving weekend and into this Monday evening as we do the show November 29th. So Dawg, without further ado, take it away, zip through our veteran, and then we're going to jump through this absolute craziness in the baseball hot stove. Jeff Healy, everybody.
What a great day, Riz. Have I mentioned how handsome you look today? Everything's just better today. All right, our veteran of the day, we'll get right to it here, is Colonel William Neary. He is the commander of the 103rd Mission Support Group in the Connecticut Air National Guard. Always talk Army guys. We'll do an Air one here. He's retiring after a long career of service. The 103rd was recently involved in supporting local response to the pandemic. He also commanded and deployed with the 103rd Air Control Squadron to a secure, undisclosed location in the Middle East. So, Colonel William Neary, thank you for your service. Retiring commander of 103rd Mission Support Group, Connecticut Air National Guard.
Where do we start? I don't even know where you start. The Texas two-step.
We could talk about how the honorary veteran of the day was Steven Matz's agent.
We don't know if Steven Matz's agent has served the country in any capacity.
He certainly helped liberate a lot of money for a lot of fellow players out there, because boy, oh boy, did he get Stevie Cohen involved here. Oh my!
Oh boy!
Shun me, shun you.
to put it mildly, dog keeping it clean right now. Holy smoke! This has been an epic run. Talk about Thanksgiving. I mean, there's a lot of people giving thanks right now.
Yes, we are.
Nonetheless, especially the Healy family with all your, you're not going to be giving thanks so much when you have to shell out for all this new paraphernalia with Met stuff on it already.
Mr. Met.
In time for Christmas gifts. Dad, I want a Max Scherzer jersey. All right, Michael, relax. You'll get it. You're sold out already. He's not even on the team yet.
Does he get a black jersey?
Gets whatever he wants.
Whichever one he wants. He gets old.
Okay, so let's go back to it. So Matz is about to repatriate with the Mets after his year in Toronto. it's reported all over the place that they're this close, all one word, to a deal. And then the next day, he's a Cardinal for 4 years, $44 million. And you're like, what? What happened here? And Steve Cohen comes out with the tweet, Dog. And in that tweet, he gets his blowtorch. and not just like the little handheld one.
Oh no, he was all in.
Like the big one. Like the one that basically is connected to the back of a jet engine. And he just lets that thing go. And he just ethers the guy. Well. How do you feel about not having Steven Matz now, Dog?
Okay, Stevie. Stevie Matz. Yeah, I was disappointed. Just real quick, I will say I was actually nervous about Matz coming back. I think he actually will do better outside of New York. So I was a little hesitant on him kind of coming back. And I think he's a great guy, and I think kind of for his own good, I think he's a guy he's just gonna be better in a smaller market. And I think actually the Cardinals is actually a great fit for him. So, but yeah, it was kind of so. Which if he just went there, it'd be one thing. It's another thing. It's like I really want to come back, and you have your historic ties here, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's like, hey, well, give us last look, as I sort of said last year, right? Stephen Cohen, he's got the money to match any offer. So like, okay, give us last look, and they're like, okay, and never called him back. So that's kind of not cool. So obviously used the offer to shop for something better, and I didn't give him a chance to match it, which is kind of not cool.
And except when it is cool, right? which it totally became cool for you as a Met fan.
I am sure that Mr. Boris was trolling that offer all over the planet, but was not able to get the deal done.
Oh, quick timeout, by the way. Note the hat if you're watching. Congratulations to my Bergen Catholic Crusaders on their first undefeated football season since 1998, beating arch rival Don Bosco at MetLife Stadium on Saturday. Producer Xavier and I were there in attendance, as was Mrs. Riz, Louisa Riz, and it was spectacular to see. Always great to beat your arch rivals, but even better when you're doing it in the big stadium with a state championship on the line. I'll tell you what, Bosco ended up 8-5, but man, they friggin' brought the wood at the beginning of that game. Getting a little too local here, but Deus Vult, BC, first undefeated season, and they're among the top handful of teams in the country. So go Crusaders! Had to get that in, and I know some people. Well, there's my buddy Dwayne Morris. He's a guy who's forgotten more about New Jersey and Eastern Seaboard college football than most people will ever know in their lives. So when I get the BC from Dwayne Morris in the chat, I know that's big. So we get that one out of the way. And boy, so we prefaced the Matz thing, right? And then talk about a domino that fell. That was like that, Dog. You can't even call it a domino. You gotta call it the waterfall, like, right? Like the dam just broke.
The opening artillery barrage.
Even better.
Coming in. The Black Friday, everyone's on sale on Black Friday for the Metsies. Why wait for Cyber Monday? Steve went out and did it old school. I guess Epler kind of hit the ground running. I guess it's not a total disaster.
I know. I mean, okay, so let's sort of back it up here and reset. So we did the Matz thing, but Dog, the Texas Rangers, the last time they made a splash like this in free agency was really the first time a splash like this was ever made in free agency, I would say. Not since they signed A-Rod to the $250 million, at the time, epic deal have we seen such a two-step, this was really a three-step, right? But they signed Marcus Semien and Corey Seager, two of the best free agent shortstops in the strongest free agent group at any position probably ever. They signed both of them. So Semien signs originally, and it's 7 years, $175 million, and you're thinking, okay, they got their
He got
shortstop, and
shortstop. Yep.
if somebody else comes up, he perfectly slots back over to second base, and in his later years, and he's going to hit for a while. You're going to be paying it at the end of the contract, but right now, his track record is good. And he's going to give you a lot, like on the field. He's going to give you a lot off the field. Great teammate, good dude. All those things. Leader. Really helped bring that Toronto team up this year. So great signing there, right? And they signed Jon Gray, the guy that you desperately wanted for the Mets, from our famous, amazing first TikTok ever, which now, like, that's like, you were on that. Like, you just, that he would have been a great signing for the Mets. But again, not that big a deal considering, like, where you're at as we're speaking now, as opposed to where you were at when the Rangers signed Jon Gray, 5 years, $56 million. And then they come out today, and we're hearing all this stuff like overnight. The Scherzer thing starts to break, that the Mets are this close, and it's the Mets. Wow. And that, then we hear later that, Corey Seager's going to decide by Monday, which is what this is when we're talking. And me and everybody else is thinking, okay, it's the Yankees. Like, Semien got his slot here. Seager's going to go to the Yanks.
Yep.
He could end up going elsewhere. But then Texas steps up, 10 years, $325 million. Listen, he was the guy that I wanted for the Yankees, aside from Anthony Rizzo. Perfect fit. But you know what, Dog? I don't know. I mean, Cashman's getting hell. I don't want 10 years for 10 years is that's a hell of a commitment. It's hard to get out of those commitments when it comes due on the player and he doesn't perform, which is, let's face it, if you get 5 like Corey Seager type years out of this contract, you're gonna be doing well. And then you still got 5 years after that, which are not going to be Corey Seager years anymore. And he also fits well as a guy who projects to move over to third base for the later part of his career. Some were even saying he could have been doing it, within a year or two. But, with Texas now, he doesn't really have to do that necessarily. But 10 years, Dog, I mean, it's just a hell of a long-term commitment. And, the Yankees already have some guys that are locked up in that span and that they might want to lock up in that span. And you just, like, you get one too many of those guys, and it's going to absolutely cripple your franchise at some point. You don't know what the collective bargaining agreement's going to bring, and you don't know if you're going to be able to get out of a deal like that. Like, they have that deal with Stanton. They really shouldn't be signing anybody to a term that's equivalent to what the term is of which they've signed. They didn't sign him. The Marlins did, and they traded him, but he's their contract and their full responsibility is what I mean. So they shouldn't really be signing anybody past that term unless that player is age 25 or less. So, to me, Seager's the guy I want. I mean, the first guy I really want them to re-sign is Anthony Rizzo, because I think he really puts the rest of the pieces in place. And now, okay, if they have to back up to even Javi Baez, he's not a guy that I was considering, but he's not a bad fit at all for the Yankees. I would rank the guys that I want in order. And I did this, I think, for you before, Dog, right? I would rank them in order. I would want Story first, then Baez, and then go to like an Andrelton Simmons, like as a stopgap for a year or two, who's got a big glove, can hit a little bit, but doesn't have to bat anywhere but 8th or 9th in your order. And I just want to stay away from Correa, not because I don't think he's an amazing player, which he is, but like, there's just too much Astro there for me. Like,
Just
there's
doesn't fit on the Yankees, right? It just, yeah.
I mean, they say what, and you're gonna have to pay a lot for him, and he's gonna get a similar deal probably to Seager, or he's gonna be looking for it. And I just don't want to make that kind of commitment if I don't have to. And I think with Story and Baez, especially with Story, he might be an equal player to Correa. He doesn't have the track record, but he's never been on, an outstanding team, or really, much of a winning team. and he's a guy that you could put there. Plus, he also projects. He and Baez very much project as guys who could play different positions as they move into the later parts of their career. And both of those guys project that they could play in the outfield, particularly center field, even as they advance their ages a little bit. So I think those guys, that's why I would rate their values for me a little bit higher, just because I have to pay them less. I can give them less years. And when Volpe is ready, if he's the stud that everybody says he is, and we have no reason to think he's not until he's at the point where he's got to disprove himself from everything we've heard. Um, they'd be in better shape with those guys, and I can live with what you're getting on and paying out on the back end of those deals. And even a Baez and Story, to me, they're similar type players. Baez is he's an electrifying player, and the Yankees could actually use that. So whereas I've never been in on him for the Yankees, I would be in on him now. But again, at the right terms and the right price over the right amount of years.
How how far? Actually, let's see. So just real quick for Baez, I do agree. Actually, I do think, excuse me, that the Yankees are a good spot for him. Like he's gone out. He's proven he can somewhat handle New York, right? Obviously, had a little bit of an issue along the way, but he manned up, he owned it, and came out, did the right things, and then delivered on the field, right? So that's a very positive sign to me. That sort of says like he had his first hiccup in New York and didn't get all pouty and bitchy about it and stuff like that. He rolled right through it, and I think New York fans love that, right? Where you go and you just you own it. I did this. I probably shouldn't have done it. You nailed me, and now I'm gonna make it right. And I think I think he generally did that for the Mets. Seager versus Baez really kind of, to me, kind of came down to lefty versus righty. So that's why we kind of thought he was a better fit for the Yanks, whatnot. It sort of depends a little bit too. How much of the plate discipline is he going to keep that he had from the back half of last year, and really turned it on with the Mets. One of the few that actually sort of outperformed on the hitting side for the Mets versus everyone else in the roster who seemed to go down. So I don't know if that's lightning in a bottle or he had something that really changed, but I guess the only negative might be is you got four other guys like him. He's more electrifying, more base running. I mean, I think he would kind of fit it, but like if he kind of slides back to like the three outcome kind of guy a little bit, then maybe it takes the bloom off the rose a little bit for it. I said I think he's shown that he can do it. He's had success with it, so there's no reason to think he can't do it. But it's just been over a shorter period. And again, I think the Yankees kind of have a bunch of guys like that. So that's why I sort of think the Seager was a better fit for it. But I think Baez would be very much in demand for the Yankees.
All right, but we're gonna see what happens, and
So
there's
how about actually maybe we just keep rolling real quick. What's the terms you want? So we got Semien 7/175. MLB trade rumors through a 5/100 started before free agency, so just cut their swag
we're talking Baez right now.
for Baez. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, Baez, I'd take 5 years, 100 million. I said 5 years, 98. I think in one of our prep meetings, right? So 5 years, 98, and then if I got to offer him a little more, whatever. But I would offer the same thing to Story. I probably would offer him maybe first or offer them that at the same time and see whichever one grabs it and be fine. I think the market on Story just waned a little bit this year because he didn't put up the numbers that he's put up in the past, but he's just an excellent player, and I think
yeah.
he's the guy whose value has fallen, but has still, to me, a lot of value and a lot of good years left. I don't think he's necessarily for the kind of shortstop you need to be a winner. I don't think he's been a Coors creation. I don't need him to hit 37 home runs and hit 342 and drive in 112 runs. Like I need him to play Gold Glove type shortstop, timely hit, put up numbers maybe like we've seen LeMahieu put up in his good years with the Yanks. And I think he would be very capable of doing that. Plus he gives them a little speed and a little dynamite that they could shake into their lineup. And I think Baez does the same thing. The only problem with Baez is I feel like I would want to bat him a little lower in the order just because he doesn't get on base quite enough. But when he does get on base, he's very electrifying. So they have a lot of similar characteristics to me, and I do like the way that both guys will show themselves to be potentially a little more versatile. With Correa, he's probably a better player, maybe certainly a more consistent player than the first two. Plus, he's got the ring. Plus, he's been a leader and he's outspoken. But you're locked in with him, man. You are locked in. He is your shortstop for as long as that contract's going to run. And, there's a lot of Yankee fans that are going to be like, yeah, okay, then that's our guy. And you know me, I like the versatility. I don't like to be locked in, especially if you're going to lock in a third big right-handed bat into your lineup. Stanton's there. You're going to, Judge is going to be there. And, if the other core piece is that big of a piece that you're signing him for so many years and he's going to be right-handed, I mean, okay, I guess you'd live with Correa there. But I'd prefer that like Story and Baez don't have to be the same piece that Correa has to be. You put Correa in there, it's like Correa's team practically, right?
Yeah.
He plays the same role with the Yankees kind of as he would with the Astros, where you say, well, Altuve was sort of the first fiddle. He's kind of the 1B or the second fiddle. Or he kind of gives something like he gives them their swagger. Like if he was on the Yankees, you have like Judge doing that, but Stanton's kind of the guy that gives them their swagger now. So, I just don't know if the chemistry fit is right for Correa with what you're going to have to pay him in the years. So that's where I'm at. I mean, if I'm given 5 years, 98 to 102 million for Story or Baez, I'm in. And if I got to go a little more, then we talk about it. I probably would be willing to go a little bit more or a little bit longer for Story at this point, just because I like his profile just a little bit better. I think with Baez, you have a chance of, like, if you give him that 6th year, like 3 of those years are going to be busts. Like he'll still play D for you, which is good, but I don't know. But I like him more now than I did before. I will say that from watching him play every day with the Mets. I like him more than I did previously.
Yeah, I mean he definitely was a different hitter with the Mets. Yeah, that's the question: is are you getting that guy or not? So it's tough trying to determine off of 2 months, right? Particularly half in September, right? They always say never watch. Be careful of stuff in April and October in September, and I don't know. I guess we'll wait to see. But he's going to be a pretty rich guy.
Uncle Paul wants 7 years, 140 million for Baez. I'm sure Baez would like that too. I don't know if he's going to get it. Like, it's hard. It's hard. The
Depends if the Yankees
the
are still
money
on board,
the money is not unreasonable there at 20 million a year. It's just the years. Got to know what Dawg is drinking right now. Got to know.
It's just water with a little mango juice mixed in. So
wow, Dawg.
It looks fantastic, but nothing high test.
Surprised there's no Bombay that found its way into that. That would be probably pretty good, right?
I was too busy running from scouts. I just didn't have time to mix it up.
Good job on that. Good job on that. Okay,
so the Texas Mets right now.
The Texas middle infield. I mean, they go from. I think. I wish I saw who it was because I hate saying this stuff. That was a tweet and not giving somebody credit for it. Let me see if it's still up on my screen. It's not. I want to give whoever said this credit, but I just can't remember who tweeted it. It was a great point that said the Rangers had no players that were better than like average WAR on the roster last year. Now they have like the best middle infield practically in the history of the game, like there's something like that, I'm paraphrasing, but like those two guys are dynamite up the middle, and that's a rebuilding team that saw an opening and decided to just open the checkbook. Now, in the past, when they've done that, it hasn't really worked out. They're 10 years removed from those back-to-back World Series, including the Soul Crusher against the Cardinals, right? But look at that AL West, Dog, right? And this is, we know people follow us for Shigon Nation. There's, our buddy Jeff Fry, former Ranger. He was
Scott Bradley.
He's still down in Texas, and
Scott Bradley, Cameron. We got a whole bunch of Mariners in the mix.
No, Rangers.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rangers. I'm sorry. When you said AL West, I jumped to.
That's a good point. We're talking AL West. Talking AL West. It's a good point. But now,
I swear there's no Bombay in there.
There should be. That's your problem. You're missing a step. So you have this like AL West, right? And you have the Astros that have had their lock on that thing. The A's are going to go into this rebuild, it looks like, right? You have the Mariners on the come, but not there yet, right? They overachieved a lot last year, so in a way, you could expect a little bit of regression probably from the 90 wins. Although
fortifying, I don't know.
We're gonna talk about their signings, but still, even they were supposed to be, by metric, they were supposed to be like a 72 win team, and they won 90. So you have to figure that there's a chance, even with them adding some pieces, that they still don't look like a 96 win team, right? You take a chunk out of the Astros if they lose Correa, which they haven't yet, but, well, I don't know. Do you have the internet on, Dog? They might have lost them by now. So if you take a little chunk out of the Astros there, right, then you're dealing with the Angels, and, they keep going out and get, like, the AL West could basically flip. It could flip in 1 year with what Texas has done. I mean, they got Gray, they got some guys coming up, and it's not all there. But I'll tell you what, we talk about it over and over. You start building that thing up the middle, and you get a few arms in there, it becomes a lot easier to find those extra little pieces that you need. Not just that you need, but when you need them. You can't get those middle infield and center field catcher guys. Like, they're hard to get, and the guys that they've had at those positions can now move around the diamond and play. They could play a little Rays type ball if they want. So you got to really hand it to Texas for going for it here. And I'm sure they were probably trying to sign Scherzer too. They could sign Kershaw. We were talking about it last week with our pal Missy Coombs. That Texas,
you finally break Missy's heart here.
I know. Well,
he's already having a rough off season.
I know. So her Dodgers have lost Scherzer and Seager.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the Dodgers for a second. So you lose Seager. Okay, so you slot Trey Turner in there. And you're like, oh, well, somebody was complaining on Twitter, oh, he gave up our two best prospects to get, a half season of Scherzer, who had a dead arm in the playoffs. By the way, he had a dead arm for like one start in the playoffs. Like, you forget all the other stuff. Like,
I think it was kind of awesome for you.
Yeah, I think he was
saved
kind
your
of
season.
Yeah, he kind of was like, the reason why you even got there. Well, not the reason, but he helped. So now you slide Turner over, and he was, fourth in the MVP voting, won the batting title. Dynamic player, was not playing shortstop, which is his natural position.
Yeah.
And
Seager maybe was kind of foregone. Like, we all sort of had that in our.
So they covered themselves in that deal by getting Turner. And you lose Scherzer. Well, they didn't have him to begin with. Now maybe they do push a little more to re-sign Kershaw, or maybe Kershaw's negotiating position got a little bit better, but they still have Walker Buehler, they still have Urias, who knows what's going to happen with Bauer, right? Who knows what's going to happen with Bauer? At some point, somebody's going to have to make some kind of ruling on the guy, and all of a sudden,
incarcerate him.
we see these like. The graphics, average annual salary, first it was Garrett Cole and now it's Scherzer. And I'm like, did Did he not? Like, did we just expunge
Did we
that
forget?
from the record
Did we?
because the guy's
Did
an
we forget about
asshole?
that?
I mean, like, did that money just disappear? Like, did that not count? Like,
It's all
we did
free.
shows about it. Like, we did practically our whole off season about him. Before all the unfortunate stuff.
As we would say in
No.
trading, a nice miss.
Oh, for the
Nice miss.
Mets, right?
Sometimes you gotta get lucky.
The
Nice miss for the
Mets,
Metsies.
the Mets not signing Trevor Bauer is, I mean, they turned around the Titanic. They
Yeah,
did it.
they
That's the
really did.
thing that's the buzzword in business. You can't stop the Titanic. You can't steer the Titanic. They steered the Titanic around the iceberg. Bauer. They did it. They actually did. And they end up with Scherzer, the old, better version of, the guy in that price range. The proven guy who still, listen, dead arm, whatever. They were just dumb in the decision that they made in using him for an inning of relief, and that screwed it up. The guy doesn't have a dead arm. Like, he's not getting through a physical. Like, if he has that, like, it's not going to happen. And now, he's not a bad number two behind DeGrom, I'd say. Not a bad two, right?
Someone had a good one. I think it was Maggie. Was it Maggie Wiggins? One of the Mets Twitter aficionados were on there, saying they don't need a manager. I think it was Maggie Wiggins. Saying they don't need a manager. They just need someone to go back and forth between DeGrom and Scherzer and say the other guy's better. So they try and outpitch each other.
Dog, how much? I'm putting a $10 bill down on Cookie Carrasco to win the NL Cy Young next year.
Cookie's like, I'll show you.
Oh yeah, he's gonna well, if you look at
Pacing myself.
look at Jon Gray, right? He had that awful year, and then he comes back. I mean, not Jon Gray, Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray has a 6.32 ERA or 6.82, and he comes back and wins the Cy Young. I'm saying, why can't Cookie do it? He's going to face everybody's number 4. All the teams, are going to be taxed after facing Scherzer and DeGrom.
Just give me 5.
Yeah, Cookie's going to come in there, and he's just going to zip. He's just going to zip through guys. His stuff will still look pretty good after everybody's all shell shocked trying to hit the first 2 dudes. And he'll be like 300 to 1 to win the Cy Young, and you just take him. Try to get direct odds on him. So, all right, we have our rundown. I don't even know which part of it we're up to, but I think we're on the Scherzer bolts to Queens with Marte, Canha, and Escobar part. That's what I'm going to say. Okay, Xavier, producer Xavier says, looks like we might be having an audio issue here.
Whoa.
I hope that we don't. I'll give him the.
Well, I'm just kind of, I'll just kind of keep talking while you're trying to figure that out.
Well, I think I'm just going to kind of keep talking too. I don't think
Okay.
we could hear each other. So if it doesn't go over and at least it's being recorded, we could always post that part up.
Okay.
And I can even post in here. Can everyone hear us? How about that? Oh, it's back now. Okay. So we had a little blip in there for some reason, but we're still here, still doing it. The part about Scherzer showing up in Queens, it's like, did we already forget that Starling Marte, Marcana, and Eduardo Escobar signed with the Mets already? Here's the only thing, Dawg. So I sort of have the good and the bad of this with the Mets. And you always we joke around that I'm trying to turn the screws on you, but I'm not. I'm just observing it the way I see it. The good side of it is
Go ahead, take the joy
good side
away.
good side of it is the guys who have been your core guys are generally unaffected here. You didn't have to give up anything or move any of those guys out to add to these guys. So you still have Alonso, you still have Dominic Smith, you still have Nimmo. It looks like Conforto leaving is a fait accompli, but that you took steps to ensure that is not going to be a loss that probably will affect you very much. And you still have DeGrom there, and the bullpen is as you make of it, and you've bolstered the starting staff for now, right? You still have the Stroman issue. Is he going to come back? Is he not? But now that's much less of an issue, and you don't need to necessarily put as much of a priority on that as you would have before. But the thing is that you're filling these gaps with guys that are like age 33 or more. All three of the guys, Marte, Canha, and Escobar, will all be, from what I looked up and remember, in their age 33 seasons starting next year. Scherzer is 37 today, right? I think he'll be 38 during the season next year. He, look, he's not in the human being category. Like, he's just not. He's different. Um, and he looks like a guy who I don't see him slowing down, too much in the length of this contract, which is, 2 years guaranteed and a third-year player option, right? So I don't think that he's any more of a liability than any big free agent pitcher you would sign. So the risk part of it is anytime, especially with the center fielder, Marte, anytime you're getting into that post age 32 season, the chances that they're going to pull a dud or just have, make their decline be steep, especially for the center fielder defensively, right?
Yep.
And Canha and Marte both can play center, but Marte's better. And you still have Nimmo, sure, but you sign Marte to be your center fielder. Yep. So you risk that the slowdown could be very brisk. Now, the good side of that is that all of them were very short-term deals. So even if all three guys bust, they actually could probably manage, like with other guys in those positions. You still have the idea of Robbie Cano's bat being back that you're going to be forced to do something with. I don't know if he's going to be on the everyday roster for the season, let alone opening day, but he's theoretically back in the mix. You still have McNeil, right? That now what have you done? Like, have you kind of, pushed him out, pushed him around, whatever. And then Dawg, I know you still want all the toys. Like, you want Baez to come back and play second. But, I think at some point you got to leave well enough alone and say, as far as the lineup, we got enough now. We could go for more of the bit guys, that might be guys that shuttle back and forth between AAA, give you a little depth there. You want to leave some of those spots a little bit up for grabs, right? And
Nope.
but Dawg. Look at even the Dodgers, and look at the Braves, what they did, right? The Braves were able to bring in, their version of like the three guys that the Mets signed at the trade deadline. So even if those guys don't work out or they get hurt or whatever, they're the types of players that you can go out and get Marte, literally the A's got him right at the trade deadline. Like, he's an example. And Escobar, same thing, right? So that flexibility and that depth, like the veterans are there. Like, so what I'm saying is I like the signings, but they do come with the risk because all of the players are not expected, in my estimation, to match up to what the averages are on the back of their baseball card, and also an antiquated term.
I think that's fair. I do think looking at maybe from like a GM owner hat perspective, that what you've done is you've basically you've kept your farm system is starting to finally grow, so you're starting to get some talent in at the AA level primarily. You're going to get a ton of picks coming this year once again, so you're starting to set up for like the kind of the years 3 to 5 out there, where you're going to have a new set of guys kind of coming in. So as you sort of correctly highlighted, that the Marte, Canha, and Escobar is kind of like, a couple year guys that you're filling in. So basically, if you're looking at it from like a cap perspective, you're pretty much cranking for it this year, next year. So they're under the cap last year. They're going to nuke the cap this year. They'll likely nuke the cap next year. Then after that, Cano drops off. Maybe you have another year of Scherzer. DeGrom, hopefully, is still around. We'll see. He's got an opt out this year, so we got to kind of see how that comes. Hopefully, if he's super healthy, he'll probably opt out. If he has another couple of health blips, I'm gonna guess maybe he may not necessarily choose to opt out. We'll see. There'll be a future show to kind of talk about. But where I disagree with you on the Baez is, to me, Baez sort of doubles down on the huge bet you've made with Lindor. Like if you didn't have Lindor and the 10-year contract and everything else like that, I would agree with you. I think you probably got enough, and if you want to pick up another second baseman, okay. If not, you probably tell McNeil to shut up and listen to Lindor and move along. I do think you go for Baez there because you want to maximize your chances of those two together being special. And you've kind of made it. It's a little tough. You could somewhat argue you're doubling down into a quote unquote losing trade. Right, last year was not a good year for Lindor overall. Maybe he was coming on. We'll see. He played better with Baez. Is that just luck? Is that magic? I don't know. Right, but I think if you've made that bet, again, that's kind of where the Cohen resources come in, right? Where you say, you know what, I'm going to do everything possible to make it work for Lindor. That he's going to be the face of our franchise. He's here for the next 10 years. Between him and Baez, they're going to have a great combination, and will be solid. And what that does to me then is you kind of push down that you have, like your sort of like quadruple A or your bench guy. I think that's a great spot for McNeil. Maybe he picks what he wants to be: the average hitter, the power hitter, decent fielder, just kind of good all around guy. You can kind of pop anywhere you need to. Davis is probably gone, is my guess. I mean, if not, I think he's a good hitter. I think he has value. So I think he'd be moved for prospects. I'm not that I want to get rid of the guy or anything, but of the guys around there, I can kind of see him getting traded, maybe again for some more Double A prospects. So sort of setting up for next 2 to 3 years or so. And I think you have enough. You have enough guys like that around. Like an Escobar again is a flexible kind of guy. Canha is a flexible kind of guy. Nimmo does sort of back up a little bit. The Marte really nosediving. In worst case, you go back to having an center fielder, until you get a younger guy coming up from the minors or whatnot. Again, not the best answer, right? And maybe that's something you got to do is that might be a stretch run pickup.
Or he slides to left if you get the DH.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So I think it gives you some flex around there. So I think the one more move I think is still. I think you can still make that work. And again, I would do it just to everything possible to make sure that Lindor works out.
I got what I need, and I want more pitching always. That's me. I always want more pitching. You know that. We talked about it. Yeah. Just give me pitching. I'll take as much pitching as I can get.
Should we hop to the Baez Stroman? Would you rather?
Well,
yeah. Probably answered it.
I just answered it. I mean, I'd rather have Stroman.
You'd rather have Stroman.
The interesting thing is, like, I actually kind of thought Stroman wouldn't be an awful fit for the Yankees until Giancarlo Stanton basically just nuked that the other day with his comments about, during their brawl, like Stroman disappeared or whatever, nobody could find him. I'm like, all right, well, I guess we're not getting him. Thanks, Giancarlo.
Let's say it's funny. I would have said the same thing. I thought he actually would fit in well with New York. That he's he's shown he can take the give and take in New York. He's a bit of a challenge on Twitter, so we'll see if that affects that may enhance his value to some teams, may turn other teams off. We'll see.
I don't know. I mean, he's a great fit for the Southern California teams, or even maybe in Texas too. Maybe if they want to keep shelling out. Look, I'd pay for him. I like the way that he profiles now because he's not a guy, and he says it himself. Go read his Twitter feed. He's not a guy who relies solely on his ability to throw the ball, 99 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. And, as his velocity dips later in his career, He's continued to work more on spotting the ball where he wants it to be, getting control, and pitching to counts. So that's a guy he's gonna age well. Like unless he just really, really, really loses his stuff really quickly, he's gonna age well. And I like the fact that he seems to have found it, especially these last couple of years. I don't think it's a fluke. And he's another guy he's better than I thought he was. He was better. Me seeing him with the Mets, I felt like he was a different guy than I used to see coming in with the Blue Jays. He's more consistent. His routine is very good. He doesn't stray from it. He does everything repeatably, each pitch. He's he's looking to get outs.
Yeah.
And
Great fielder.
Great fielder. I mean, if you still have no DH, like he's definitely got a stick, You know me. I like pitchers that could hit. Take away the DH completely. I'll be happy.
Yeah,
So
and he showed it too. He had a prove it deal, right? So he came in, he kind of angered some folks the way he went down in 2020. Understandable, but some of us Met fans were a little torqued that we kind of got used to get him to free agency. He got his qualifying offer based on not even pitching. Came up and he went out and improved it, which is what you want a guy to do. So he's definitely earned a big deal, and he'll get it from somebody, and he deserves it. So,
we'll see. I think I think he's a good fit for any of the Southern California teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, slots right in as a Dodger, right? Slots right in as an Angel. Angels could really use him.
Yes,
Padres could too. Padres pitching collapsed a little bit last year.
Yeah.
Mariners, like any of those West teams, I think there's a good case for him in a lot of places too. I think
Texas has got that strong up. He's
Texas
a ground ball guy. He's going to pitch in front of Seager and Semien.
I'd like having those guys picking up grounders behind me.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So he should
ground ball guy in Yankee Stadium too.
How about the Red Sox? If I'm the Red Sox, I'm taking a real hard look at him too.
I'll be honest, that's where I think the whole Twitter thing might get a little touchy.
People got to get over it, man. He could say what the hell he wants. The guy doesn't get in trouble off the field. I mean, he's not a bad guy.
It's true. He
does all the right things.
It's never affected him on the field that I can see.
No, he's allowed to talk. I mean, the guy's a podium. He's a major league player. Does he pump his own tires when he's out there? Yeah, but you know what? Like, that's the way he's doing it. And there's no negativity really being committed except for the fact that a lot of it's against him. He gets a lot of feedback and a lot of bullshit thrown at him on Twitter for putting himself out there the way he does. And he's reposted a lot of it. Vile stuff. Vile, disgusting, unacceptable stuff.
True.
And he doesn't say anything,
He doesn't say anything like that.
Like back. I mean, he just
he
takes it.
He says some stuff back.
Not what he's getting.
No.
And him being able to respond to that is it's helpful because it allows you to see that this stuff actually exists.
Fair.
That there is, that racial stuff like that gets he's just a guy playing baseball. Like, I mean, what does it matter? Right? But like people just want to give their comments about it. And, if he's allowed to pump his tires a little bit if he wants to. And I think he, rightfully, if people want to say, dude, like, why do you have to pump your tires? Why can't you just go out and pitch? That's a fair criticism, but like, it has nothing to do with him being black. Yeah. Like, that's bullshit that people would even think of saying that stuff, but it happens. And he puts a little bit of an eye out there for people to see it. So I don't have any problem with him. The guy could pitch for my team any day of the week. But again, the stuff that Stanton said. Apparently, he can't pitch for my team because because Giancarlo Stanton, you know, would punch him in the face as soon as he walked into the locker room.
I
And
mean, I mean, in fairness, I mean, it's Stanton and Judge, right? And Strowman looks like Kevin Hart out there
I know,
versus those monsters.
I know.
We just say that we were doing a brawl, like, oh my lord! I'm like, it's like Alonzo and like maybe Dom Smith verse.
It's easy. It's easy for the guy who's got the $300 million 10-year contract to say to the guy who's an impending free agent pitcher, like, "Hey, you disappeared." Yeah, of course I disappeared. I got the golden arm right here, baby. Not gonna let that get messed up like
I'm not
Armando
like 6'4",
Benitez.
280 like your entire lineup.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let the Los Angeles Rams front line like destroy me while I'm out like in a base brawl. Anyway, okay,
There
so
we go.
we've kind of jumped around in the rundown a little bit. Let's jump down to the part where we say Robbie Ray and Adam Frazier to Seattle because we touched a little bit on the AL West, which could completely flip. And even if the Mariners ended up right like better than third, it would still flip in their favor. Um, Interesting to see what's happening there in Seattle with a really reinterest gained in a team that hasn't done much the past couple of decades here. That used to be a mainstay back in the late 90s and early 2000s, including the 116 win team, which is arguably the best team that never won a World Series. Um, they also have the outfielder from Japan that's going to be posted that maybe he ends up in Seattle too, but at least you're starting out here with Robbie Ray, the American League Cy Young winner, moving from Toronto to Seattle, and now they just acquired Adam Frazier, who's in the last year of his deal. He was a trade deadline pickup by the Padres from the Pirates, and he moves over to Seattle here for this last year of the deal. Probably, I would think, Dawg probably he's going to play um, short, second, middle infield, maybe a little outfield. What it kind of does to me is it sort of takes the Mariners out of that middle infielder market where people thought maybe they could have been a player there. So I don't think the Baez or the Story or even the Simmons, or Correa, like I don't think Seattle now is really a destination for any of those guys.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think they've done their big move with two guys and two great pickups for them. So yeah, I completely agree on that. That they're trying to finally take that step and realize that today or tomorrow is now. So
But an outfielder named Suzuki coming from Japan to the Mariners is really something that would be intriguing, right? So this is Saya Suzuki. I hope I said it right, Saya. Um, and that let's see, he's going to get posted, and we'll see how long that takes for him to you know decide on where his market's going to be. I mean, just a few years ago, right? Shohei Otani. I mean, look what's happened. I mean, he's come over and turned everything his way pretty quickly, and he's your reigning American League MVP, and now this AL West is really starting to wake up. We kind of we're looking at these other teams, and we're kind of forgetting also about the Angels. Even though they haven't been that active. Um, Dog, let's take a look at Toronto. So they lose Robbie Ray, but they signed Kevin Gausman. Um, Gausman, very good numbers last year, although in the second half was not nearly as good. But he bolstered a team that won surprisingly 107 games. So even though Ray won the Cy Young, is that a wash? You lose a lefty, you gain a righty. Is that a wash right there?
I think so. I think that both those guys were pretty much set. I think I would actually probably kind of take Ray. Um, a little bit again. I sort of think it's always tougher to get that lefty, so maybe it's slight there. But in terms of the numbers that they put out, and the numbers you can look at kind of going forward, I think Allison certainly offsets that. They also lose Matz, who pitched very well for him as well. So
Yeah, I'd say that's a good
him
point.
going to the Cards. So losing two good lefties on there, so it definitely puts a little bit more against him.
Maybe Stroman ends up back in Toronto.
Could be another
I
good
think he,
fit there.
I think that was a good relationship when it was
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I think so.
Um,
Fielding not quite the same from doesn't have Lindor behind him now, and and Baez. So, yeah, I mean that's the team that again could use a little bit more pitch, and the hitting is tremendous, obviously in Toronto. So, um, yeah, that's another good fit.
it's like, hey, keep him under 5. We got the rest. um, they also signed Yimi Garcia. There's been a few of these. It's so hard, dog. Like we could go
So
through
much, right? Yeah.
and talk about all these like relievers and stuff that are important guys that are getting these contracts. Kirby Yates is coming back. He signs with the Braves, 2 years, $8.5 million. Um, Yimi Garcia also signed with Toronto, so he was the Marlins closer, and then he was traded at the deadline to the Astros, where he did not close, and he ends up on a Toronto team that's just looking to bolster anything, any perceived weakness that they can. Daniel Hudson now, dog. I'm seeing it looks like he's going to sign with the Dodgers. We still got Kenley Jansen out there, right? Like, is he going to go back? And I don't think I missed that one. Alex Cobb looks like he's going back to the Giants. Um, and then, dog, you have a couple of interesting names that we haven't talked about. So we've done a lot on Baez. We've done a lot on Stroman. We mentioned Kershaw. We mentioned Anthony Rizzo. We mentioned Michael Conforto, but only in the text of him leaving the Mets. And we mentioned say Suzuki, but we haven't talked about Freddie Freeman. We haven't talked about we talked about Correa. We haven't talked about Chris Bryant. We have talked about Story and Baez. We have not talked about Nick Castellanos, nor Kyle Schwarber, Chris Taylor, Nelson Cruz. Now, if I'm Nelson Cruz, this is it. Let's start with him. A DH, he's the rare case where if I'm him or his agent, I'm saying we'll let other people sign. What's more important for us is we wait to see if the universal DH is going to be in play.
That's a
Because
good call.
now that opens up his market potentially a lot more, right? So
Yep.
I mean, unless one of these teams in the American League is just willing to go right for him and say, look, I don't even want to wait for you to get to the market. Come back here. We'll give you a 2 year deal, even though you're, 41. You could still rake. Um, if he gets a 2 year deal from somebody for decent enough money, he probably would just sign it. But if he waits it out, there's going to be some of these teams that would be willing to pay him, probably a little more. He's not going to get more than a 2 year deal. He probably would get a 1 year deal, but maybe somebody's 1 year deal would be like 17 million instead of 12. Or if he gets a 2 year deal, maybe he would get a 2 year, $25 million deal instead of 2 and 19, something like that. Um, so he's an interesting one. Anthony Rizzo, look, my greatest nightmare is that he goes to the Red Sox. My most important thing is that he comes back to the Yankees. Diamond Dog concurs. Thank you.
Exactly.
She's very
Not a
smart.
fan of that at all.
She's a big, she's a big Anthony
She
Rizzo
loves
fan.
Riz. Loves the
Is a
Riz.
Diamond Dog. So, like I don't know, Dog. It's Freddie Freeman. Let's talk about him because he's kind of the domino there, right? He's the younger, better hitting. Also now with like him and Rizzo are very, very, very similar.
Yep.
Freeman's a better hitter. He has been a better hitter, but Rizzo has his moments. Rizzo's better defensively, and Rizzo's a little bit older, but they're kind of
Comparable.
the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Rizzo's going to be a lot cheaper and less years, and I just I cannot see Freeman leaving the Braves, but I also couldn't see Max Scherzer being in New York. So what the hell do I know? Set me straight. Set me straight, dog.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't see how he doesn't go back to the Braves. I mean, I think he's just a core entity of that team, and it's hard. I mean, the Braves occasionally let guys go, but not often, right? So, particularly a guy like that with such a long runway left. I think it's tough to kind of see that. I will say the one place I could kind of see him going is, does he want to go up to the big lights, right? And could that be the big shocker move that the Yankees go for? I think Rizzo makes more sense for the Yankees than Freeman, frankly. And I think the Yankees could use those resources, in different places, rather than trying to arguably get an upgrade from Rizzo to Freeman. Like we sort of said, I'm not sure that's even an upgrade. Um, but yeah, I think both those guys want it back with where they ended. So I think Freeman's back with the Braves. I think Rizzo's back with the Yankees. I think it makes the most sense from the player and the team. So
It definitely feels right for those guys to be there, but again, money talks, and
yeah,
you never know who's looking at the love, right?
yeah,
Maybe it's love. I don't know. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's love nor money. Nick Castellanos, dog. A lot of talk about him and Kyle Schwarber to the Phillies to bolster the lineup around NL MVP Bryce Harper. Um, I like both guys for different reasons,
yeah,
especially together. Kind of like them both together. Like Castellanos, you know, batting above Schwarber or Schwarber above Castellanos. Like, kind of take that one either way. I, I, I would very much so. What do you think? Also, I guess the Phillies are also apparently in play for those two and Chris Bryant. I doubt they're going to go for all three, but I don't know where I would prioritize that. Again, I think it always has a lot to do with who you're getting for what average annual value at how many years commitment. There's no doubt that Bryant is, the most established and the best player of that group. Um, but there's things about Castellanos that you could like, and there's things about Schwarber that you could like, and they're not going to cost probably nearly as much, and potentially you can get just as good a value, especially if you're talking about Bryant and Castellanos straight up as outfielders, and Schwarber, you're going to probably want him in more of a DH and part-time outfielder, maybe a little first base type situation.
yeah. I would feel more comfortable with Bryant out in the field. Castellanos is not a good fielder, and I think he's kind of heading down on that way as well. And Schwarber again is kind of rough in his own right as well. So that's why I sort of think, like, if you have him around Harper, you're basically asking Harper to like cover the entire outfield. Now it's a bandbox, but still, that's kind of a lot. So uh, I think that seems like I think that sort of feels like a lot to kind of roll around there for him. Maybe one of those guys wound up going down to the Nationals. That's another possibility as well. So maybe kind of filling a DH role potentially for those guys down there. So I could kind of see that more for the Schwarber and Castellanos. Then I think Bryant still has enough value out in the field that someone's going to, whoever gets him is going to generally play him in the field, and would like to have the opportunity to slide him into the DH a little bit as well to kind of give him a break occasionally. But you can feel like him most of the time. You can still put him out there in the field. And then Conforto is the other sort of mix on there. He's also been rumored for the Phillies, which would hurt. But
Not if
that's
every year with the Phillies is like his last year with the Mets, it won't.
uh,
Then you'll love it.
yeah, true. Yeah.
It'll pain you. It'll pain you,
I'm paying
except
you a
when
little bit. I don't like to see my guys suffer on that, but yeah, if he was striking out all the time with Scherzer and the guy in first, that's okay. But yeah, and he would be a good fit in either one of those spots that I think would definitely help out both defense and hitting as well. So
here's
Castellanos was kind of one we were throwing around, like we were looking at Conforto contract values and stuff like that, and sort of taking him and trying to extrapolate out. So it's at a $14 or $15 million a year kind of situation.
lost a little bit in the shuffle was the Wander Franco deal, which
Mm,
seems like eons ago,
yeah,
but it really like it kind of turned the establishment on its collective ear, not just because I mean it's such a team friendly deal theoretically, right? Because they're incurring all of the risk up to $180 million on a player who, look, he's a lock. The one thing you can't account for is injuries or an injury history, right? But he's as worth a shot as any guy that we've seen. And they copied what the Braves did with Acuna, right?
Yep.
But here, this is a wild one, Dog. I'm going to come out of left field here. Now, it has to be for some reason, this dude is like not getting anywhere near the offers that he wants. So he's going to go totally off the board for like a 1 or 2 year deal at pretty, decent money and end up in Tampa. Chris Bryant would be like a perfect Ray. He plays Ray ball to the nines. You play him at third. You play him anywhere in the outfield. He could be your extra infielder when you're doing 5, your extra outfielder when you're doing 4. Probably go over play second, a little bit of first. Like, hits situationally. Like, would be a great leader on a young team. The thing is, they're not gonna lock him up to like, some 5-year, $125 million deal, right? But like, let's say he's just not getting whatever. Like, Rays could be like, hey, why don't you come over here and play with these guys for like a year for $25 million? Because guess what? We have to get to the salary floor that's being negotiated. We have to get the payroll to $100 million. We could blow $27 million of it on you for this year, and then I don't know, maybe we have a team option for $27 million the year after, something like that, or or we'll just make some kind of agreement that you could just go ahead and be a free agent after this year. Maybe they give him a 2-year deal with a player opt out, something like that. So that would be crazy, right?
That's
like
interesting.
That would,
I like that.
A salary floor deal. I'm looking at all these guys. I'm like, Castellanos, Schwarber, Conforto, Chris Taylor, he could be a Ray, like, anyway.
Yeah.
But they already have like 3 of him, so I don't really think they need like another one of him. But they don't have a Chris Bryant, and like, if you put Chris Bryant on the Rays, like, they could like definitely win the World. Like, they could win the World Series without him, but like, you put Chris Bryant on the Rays for like a year with this group, and now we mentioned they got Corey Kluber, who when he was healthy last year, was good enough to throw a no-hitter at one point for the Yankees. That's a veteran guy, right? Like, what was their shortcoming in the playoffs against the Red Sox? Maybe they just needed a little more veteran something else. Chris Bryant's got a ring. He's got an MVP. He was on that Giant team. Guess what? He fell asleep a little bit in September. They were still winning games. He was still going out there playing where he needed to play. And then in the playoffs, he woke up, right? That's going to be one of my dark.
I like that. That's a good call.
Nobody's talking about Chris Bryant to the Rays. That I can guarantee you.
Nope.
Nobody.
That's the first I've heard it was tonight.
So if that happens, you keep coming back to Diamond Diehards. You hit that subscribe, follow buttons, whatever the hell it is, and you listen to us, because this is the kind of crap that we've been doing for 2 years on this show.
That's it.
We told you about Anthony Rizzo last April going to the Yankees.
Yes, we did.
And now I was wrong about Corey Seager going to the Yankees, but I mean, they were probably in it right up until today, so that's pretty good. It's
very close. Close.
Very close.
Yeah. And I love the fact you're alluding to the salary floor as well. Also going into the time machine on there. Assuming that comes out in the CBA, which makes a ton of sense. But
listen,
we'll save that when we do our CBA focus show. But
there's no other team. Like, let's talk about the salary floor for a second, because it's really been proposed, and it would be $100 million from what I've seen. And Dawg, the labor negotiations apparently are happening in some kind of secret, although somebody got some kind of leak out there. I literally saw a tweet the second before we went on the air. I didn't have a chance to read the story or see who it was by. Maybe it was on The Athletic. I don't know. But if that salary floor comes into play, you have to look at some of these teams that would be close or that would be bolstered by a 1 or 2 year contract that gets them to the floor, but also could put them over the top. The Rays are going to be a unique company there. You know, the A's have not put themselves back in that company. They've removed themselves from that company. The Royals maybe could be a team that's like that. The Guardians, who used to be the Indians, they maybe could be a team that's like that, but they're probably already closer to that $100 million floor. But the Rays are unique. The Rays would have to throw maybe even two guys like that out there. So Chris Bryant, he kind of fits that bill because he hasn't signed with anybody yet. You're not hearing word one about him anywhere. And, if he's not going to get a 5 year, $25 million a year deal, he might be able to get that 25 million for a year or two straight off the bat and put himself in contention to win a World Series or two, right?
Yeah.
Especially with the apparent inactivity of the Yankees that everybody thinks is the gloom and doom in the Bronx over here, which I don't believe, but interesting, Dog. Another team, and we could sort of I guess work into wrapping it up here. The Marlins acquired Jacob Stallings, the Pirates catcher, and they signed Avail Garcia away from the Brewers to give themselves a little outfield help and a little veteran presence there. Now, the interesting thing is Stallings won the Gold Glove, and people are saying, "Oh, look at this. Here are the Pirates. They're giving up their young players again." Stallings is not young. You know, he's been around for a while. You just never heard of him. You know, he's been in the league. He came up in 2016. He's like 31. I mean, and he didn't come up when he was 20. I mean, he's 31. He's not a young player. So, was he valuable this year? He was very valuable. It's interesting that the Marlins take a Gold Glove catcher and they bring him in to teach the young staff.
That's a great fit for them, 100%. I mean, they have so many good young pitchers coming up the last couple of years that having a guy like that is really a game changer for them.
So interesting moves that they make there, right? And then it makes me wonder also, Dog, if like you were talking about the Nationals for maybe Schwarber or Castellanos, especially if under the prerequisite, especially if the DH comes to the National League. But I don't know that I see that necessarily because I just don't think the Nationals are going to push to turn it around that quick. I think they want to see if they could turn it around with giving more of their young guys a chance. And then, okay, Strasburg returns, and the guy they got from the Dodgers comes in, and he maybe gets a spot in the rotation. They got the catcher from the Dodgers too. So, if those guys come out and they join, the Juan Sotos of the world, and the Nationals start overachieving in what's going to, look like a really tough NL East next year, I could see them trying to acquire those parts during the season to bolster their chances. But I don't see the Nationals really making any moves on these guys in free agency in the offseason because, look, the Braves are the defending champions. The Mets are signing everybody in creation, which means that if those guys, like we said, don't perform, they're going to go out and just trade for other guys to replace them, the way the Braves did last year when guys got hurt or suspended. Marcell Ozuna, by the way, 20-game suspension for his domestic abuse allegations from this past season, but also he was hurt. Just a side note there that came out. And Miami with all the pitching, right? Miami with all the pitching and key players around the diamond are going to give these teams potentially fits. So I don't see the Nationals making moves on these guys in the off season here, but the Marlins, dog, they could be another team on that salary floor that could add. Well, you know what? Theoretically, they could add a guy like Chris Bryant, right?
Yeah.
He could be destined for somewhere in Florida. They could even add, like a Conforto, depending on what they think of the rest of the guys that they have in the outfield there. And they got a couple of really good prospects that came up last season. But it's interesting. That salary floor, dog, we might have to do a whole show on that. In the meantime, I don't know. Do we even bother with Diehard Dads tonight? Like, I don't even know. I don't know if I got enough juice left for that, or if anybody cares at this point, or if it's.
I'll
No,
do a quickie.
I know that we've brought a lot of new people in for this episode, and especially like after last week when our pal Missy Coombs joined us. I think a lot of people got a chance to discover what we've been doing here for almost a couple of years now. So maybe we kind of owe it to the masses to do Die Hard Dads. All right, dog. I have been carrying this segment like a rented mule. So I will gladly step aside and let you lead off.
All right. So I got a fun one. I have this one will be for Molly. So my world traveler. So Molly got to go down to so she's a college senior now. So was going down for just over a week down to Peru to go climb Machu Picchu. So it's like part of her class. She got to go down and like basically go hiking around. So she was tooling around down there. Got to do like the I guess sort of a little warm up hike, and then another Passover. We got to see a picture of her with the mask on and Machu Picchu in the background. So looking very cool. So she managed to go down there and climb Machu Picchu, and managed to fly out on Sunday just as they had the two earthquakes going on in Peru. So a 7-9er and a 5 and change, I think, or 7.5 and 5 and change in Lima. So fortunately, everything was all a-okay, and now back in Elon. But very proud of my globe trotting Miss Molly.
Doug, I know the thing these days is to rewrite history, but according to the textbooks when I was growing up, do you know who discovered Machu Picchu? Do you know? Does Dog know?
The Incas.
No, it was attributed to a chap named Hiram Bingham. I remember that from
very good
grade school history. Well, which was of course my other thing, which is I don't know if I guess maybe I'll just do this part of Die Hard Dads with that. I don't know. Well, I do love helping the kids. I do love helping the kids, especially Louisa. She's always hitting me up for dual stuff. I'm like her study buddy for history because I love the history stuff, and I remember so much more of it than I thought that I do. She starts talking about it. I'm like, no, this, and this, and what about this, and that. So I have a lot of fun doing that. The boys, for some reason, don't hit me up as much for it. And, that's why they don't have hundreds the way their sister does. But they're close. They're pretty good. So maybe there's a little history gene in there. I guess my diehard dads would be the sort of, we talk about baseball, we talk about life, but this is, and I talked a little bit about the top about my Bergen Catholic Crusaders. I got to spend time, with producer Xavier and Louisa and Deb and my goddaughter Eva. She came and sat with us at the Bergen Catholic game on Saturday, and on Friday night, my other team where I didn't go to high school, which is Ramapo High School up here in North Jersey, where the great Chris Sims went. I think I did mention it last week how we tragically lost Coach Drew Gibbs suddenly and tragically, and Northern Highlands was good enough to put off the sectional semifinal playoff game for another week. They were hosting the game. We didn't attend the game. It was sold out. It was overrun there. They don't have a ton of room over there, but sold out nonetheless. Doug, this was one, and we watched it on the live stream. This was one of the best high school games you could have ever seen. The Ramapo team was losing what was it, 24-21. There's about a minute and a half left in the game. It's 4th and 5, I think, from about the 22. And the quarterback, Jack Russer, who's, a kid I saw, when he was little on the wrestling mats when my guys were wrestling, and his dad, Joe, is a friend of mine, a great family, great kid. Dog, he drops back. He just heaves it to the end zone. Kid turns. He's covered like a blanket, looks up, puts his hands out. Ball goes into his hands. He catches it for a touchdown. On 4th down, it was like 4th and 2, and he just hit the touchdown.
Wow.
Unbelievable. We're like, wow, coach is really, looking over us here.
Looking down, right? Yeah.
As these things go, you're playing an 11-0 team, Northern Highlands, excellent team. They kick off. The kid returns it past midfield. 2-3 plays later, they hit a kid over the middle for a touchdown. And you're like, wow, it's all. So the score at that time, then I should just correct myself. After Northern Highlands scored with like 30 seconds left, they go up 35-30. And you're like, well, that's it. There's 30 seconds left. What are you going to do? They kick off. Kid downs it. My neighbor, Timmy, catches it, downs it. They do it, short kickoff. We're at the 25. Dog, they drive down to like the same spot on the 22 somehow. He makes a run, throws a pass, kid gets down. And I'm like, this is unbelievable. I'm like, he's going to throw a freaking touchdown pass and they're going to walk out of here with a miracle. Drops back, kid comes around the end and makes an unbelievable sack and ends the game. And, there's tears. You could see, you just feel it as a community. And I'll show you the little, that's the Coach Drew armband. I don't know if you could see it that well. Forever a Raider. Well, I got it upside down. Forever a Raider, Coach Drew. But, Dawg, what it really does is, where you're like sitting here saying, what does it have to do with Diehard Dads? Well, what it is when you have kids at the school, which I do, you become part of the community. You become connected to it. Now, I have one athlete at the school. My daughter plays hockey and softball. And, you become part of the community, especially when there's good people who are similar to you, who are just going out and doing their thing. And it really was a difficult loss for a lot of us, even those like me. Like, I didn't have a personal connection to Coach, but I feel the loss. I feel it tremendously. And I could see that, my kids who are generally, pretty even keeled about this. Like, I could see the effect that it had on them. And then to have it embodied in a football game like that, where, high school football is big here in North Jersey. It's not like it is, like, say, in Texas, but people get pretty passionate about it in certain schools. But this was way more about a community and life than it was about a football game. And as a dad, I really, really felt that, and I felt as much a part of the Ramapo family, that night as I ever did of, the Bergen Catholic family, where I'm an alum and a dad now as well. So once again, I just wanted to offer my condolences to Coach Gibbs and his family, dealing with this. His son stepped into the head role, at least for that game. I don't know what's going to happen from here on in, but really an emotional time. And, hey, listen, it would have been a Hollywood story if they somehow won that game and went to the finals. It didn't turn out that way, but it's a little dose of life. And listen, as a dad, it makes you check, look what you have, appreciate that, especially during the time of Thanksgiving, and understand that, you ought not take it for granted, because you never know what's going to be there tomorrow. So again, I know I go a little somber here, maybe a little repeat of some of the stuff we were talking about, but that's my Diehard Dads, Dawg. How about that?
There we go.
Dawg, I need one of those Pompeys right now. How long will it take you to get here? All right, I think we'll wrap it up there. If you need to cleanse your soul, listen to us If you need to cleanse your car, go to Big Ed's Car Wash in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. You'll love his tunnel. It's huge, the hugest. Fair Lawn, New Jersey, Big Ed's Car Wash. If you're in the Bergen or Passaic County areas, and go in and give Big Ed a shout. Tell him you heard about it on Diamond Diehards, and he's very generous. He might even throw you a free air freshener or something like that. And I'll tell you what, my I was there already a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't been back yet. My car's still shining.
Nice.
They attention to detail.
Knows what he's doing.
Literally. And we're hoping to put him on the map. Speaking of map, Sports Maps with a Z, M-A-P-Z. Check them out for a nice piece of art for your home, your office, or your home office. If you don't want to use virtual backgrounds like we mostly do here at Diamond Diehards, you get a nice piece of art for the sports fan in your life or yourself. Sports Maps, M-A-P-Z, S-P-O-R-T-S, M-A-P-Z.com, sportsmaps.com. Check them out. And if you'd like to get the word about town physically, old school, the way that printing and promotional needs are met is best met by FMS Graphics, a family-run, family-owned business for over 50 years. FMSgraphics.com for all your printing and promotional needs. Get the word out. FMSgraphics.com, FMSgraphics.com. Family-owned, family-run for over 50 years. Now, as we get ready to depart, who knows? We might have to jump on here in a couple of days again because there's so much going on. A lot of things, a lot of talks behind the scenes about the future of Diamond Diehards. It's only going to get better, we think. But keep tuning in, keep checking us out at diamonddiehards.com, everywhere on social media. And if you like what you're hearing or like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe or follow buttons on whatever platform you are consuming our content. That is going to do it for a Monday Night Live, the Free Agent Frenzy, the Texas Two-Step. For the Dawg, Jeff Healy, this is Joe Rizzo. Diamond Diehards is out.